Okay, last fucking try. Maybe? Did we get it? Man, what a mess. Are we still dropping frames or what? Ugh. Somehow Twitch like couldn't decide whether my phone was live or my computer was live, and it decided it was gonna just fight between the two and not let me turn it off on either one of them. So like, I don't know what was going on, but I think we might be good. Are we good? Are you seeing me 20 freaking minutes later? God, man, what a mess. We probably had like a bunch more people here because than we usually do because you know I gained 1,000 followers last night or today and just look like a total dick. Okay, we're cool. So yeah, welcome anyone who's new and decided to stay for 20 minutes of me looking like an idiot, not knowing what I'm freaking doing. But we're here. What's going on? Today has been a very interesting day. I have not slept. Um, I tried to, but was definitely a little adrenaline-ish this morning. Uh, Very interesting seeing your stuff on that kind of scale. Uh, so it's been pretty cool, man. All right, get right to making some shoes because bored you guys with 20 minutes of a mess already. Yo, thanks, man. You were a big help with that, to be honest, Darren. So it's only just beginning, as far as I can tell. I had a, or I can talk about it, I guess. I had a meeting today with these guys that are doing a auction platform that's like specifically for this kind of hype market and stuff like that that ties I guess I don't know if I'm allowed to talk all about it, but the we've ironed out the details for the auction, for the raffle, for everything. I think that the info on like when the raffle will start and when the auction will start and how all of those things will manifest is gonna drop on Friday. So like, it's like, I guess Friday, I'm gonna drop the info on when I'm gonna drop the raffle on, et cetera, et cetera. So we got a little bit of time, but it's all coming in the near future. In the real near future, we made some really cool partnerships with some really cool people, and this is growing into some really big, a lot bigger stuff than I thought it was gonna be. So yeah, man, cool day, cool stuff. Definitely don't want to like bore you guys with me just being all starstruck and excited, but pretty cool and validating, obviously. At the same time, it's kind of interesting seeing how divisive it turned out to be, the whole coronavirus theme, and like obviously dancing with a serious subject and but then the sort of lighthearted, happy nature of SBs in the first place, and uh, trying to toe the line between the two to make the point, and still feel like a dunk, but try to make what we made. I think it turned out great. I think I nailed it personally. Like, not to toot my horn or whatever, but as far as like you know being respectful and understanding the weight of the subject matter, like I personally think I mean I feel like if I no matter where I landed there, people would have been mad at me for being not serious enough or for being too serious. So that's just kind of life, dude. That's whatever. But ultimately, it seems like the vast majority of people are really stoked and really excited about what's going on. Big time response for like special box. Gotten people trying to backdoor offer like $5,000 for it and stuff. So that's been pretty heavy, and like, you know, follows and mentions and stuff from like pro sports players and rappers and shit like that. And it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. I mean, I don't know at all what they'll go for or whatever, but man, it would be really cool if like if they went big and we set a precedent and like, you know, change the kind of what the future looks like for Air 32 and what I do with sneakers and all this shit, you know. So anyway, I'm hyped. I'm also freaking tired, so I'm gonna just kind of work on shoes and noodle and see how far we get. So I don't know where it is. I'm sure I have it somewhere. I cut it already. I'll have to find it. But I have the liner that I was gonna use for this stuff, which is this like this fake leopard stuff that we used for the swoosh. But it's actually really thick, and usually I like to use maybe 0.7 millimeter or so for a liner, and I found that the stuff that I've got here is probably more like 1 or 1.1, which is usable, but it kind of is a little bit of a mess. I can actually show you on so the Travis lows that I'm doing for Tosh. I actually used some of that leather for the liner, and it's real thick comparatively. It shouldn't be this thick. This is like in 1.1 millimeter mostly. So like the difference when you get the bend in there and you look like you're gonna look it with a shoe, you're gonna get all that kind of rippling in the back, and it's gonna be a harder, less pliable kind of feel to the foam and that sort of stuff. It's not impossible, and it doesn't stretch as well. So I don't know. Generally, you want a thinner, more pliable, better stuff than this. This was all I had. I ordered a bunch. I have a guy. If you need a guy, let me know in the Discord or whatever. But I have a guy in Italy, of all places. Funny enough, most of my leather comes from either Spain. Like most leather from my uppers comes from Spain, from this dude in Andalusia who's like him and his like brother or son or something just make all these skins and do really good. And then the other guy who does all my liner, he's in Italy. Some of you guys know that guy, Fadi. He's a cool guy and does a bunch of cool stuff, and I just ordered probably 10 skins of like 0.7 liner, so I'm really psyched. So actually, that being said, I'm gonna take a look at where we are with this pair, because I think we might be at that point where it's like time for liner, and if it is, maybe we'll skip and work on tongs or something like that instead, and wait for liner, because these will be better with better liner. But I don't know. We can take a look. We'll see. Tosh. Oh yeah, Tosh, my wife. Exactly. Tosh, the beautiful. Tosh, the great. She's over there in the other room, making money, facilitating these sneakers. Just kidding. Well, not really. She is a monster, though, for sure. Gotta love her. So let's see. This stuff. So you see how, like, well, I don't know how to show how not pliable it is, but like, if this was good liner material, it would definitely be floppier than that. How do I see if I have any scraps? Okay, so ideal is like this stuff where it's, you know, pliable and soft, etc. Might have enough to actually cut some here. Let's see. We have like one. I don't know if we could pull off two though. This is trash scrap anyway. Yeah, well, we might wait. So I'm supposed to get a shipment of liner soon. I like the idea of this, and I did this in a pair of Dunks with the leopard liner, but this one just feels like it'll be crinkly and not good, and I just don't think it'll work out. And I think one of the things that I feel like everybody's like talking about in like all the comments about the Corona Dunks or whatever is like, oh dude, your attention to detail and blah blah blah, and like, sure, I mean, yes, obviously a part of it is attention to detail, but like part of what attention to detail is for me is just knowing that, like, okay, this was good and I liked this idea and I bought this stuff and I don't want to waste it, but at the same time, like, if I put this on there, it's too thick and it's just not gonna work out right, and I'm not gonna like it, you know? Or like the original material I got for the Corona Dunks, I can show you it. It's actually cool as shit, but I just don't. It wouldn't work as well. Like, so this stuff is way more expensive. This is real ostrich, and it's like relatively high grade. It's not like super grade A, but it's reasonably high grade. It's green. It was like a little, you know, this was my original intention was to use this actual ostrich, and it has like the actual little you know, dimples on it and whatever. But then like I kept on like looking at it and putting it next to this stuff. This stuff is super gnarly looking and like super over the top and worked so good, and it's like neon and like the right color, and the fake dots kind of are exaggerated compared to this stuff, and like, I don't know, it's like I said, I think a big part of why those shoes came out real well is like I just was okay with scrapping part of the idea, going back to square one. Like I should show you guys. I'll show you guys on the Discord the like mock-ups I did for when I first sketched them out, because they're actually pretty cool. I might make those someday. They're completely different than actually what I ended up designing. They're like night and day, and I have all the material to do them. So maybe I'd actually make those. It'd be pretty cool. But yeah, the final version is like so good. So anyway, what I'm getting at is maybe with these lows, we wait until next week for the liner, so we can have a better liner. We can use the tongues though. Like, why don't we use the tongues? And then I can cut some piping out of that stuff, out of this stuff, and that would still work. So we could do that. Oh, I always do that. I wish I had a way for you guys to like make a noise and let me know that I'm not on the right camera. I bet they can do that. Is it tougher to just use cloth for the liner than leather? It is significantly tougher to use cloth than leather for the liner, because with leather I can just glue it. So with leather, I pull it over, stretch it how I want to. I can like feel how it stretches, and I can like, you know, push it into corners, and it's got some like moldability and that sort of stuff, and then like you press it together, and the glue works, and all that stuff. With fabric, you can't use a lot of glue because it'll seep through. If you're using like crazy hairy minky fabric like you do with the coronavirus ones, that's a nightmare. Trying to not get glue on that stuff and flip that liner is an absolute nightmare. The right way to do it with fabric is to sew it into the strobel like you do in the factory. I don't know that. I mean, my way is just like being very, very, very careful. But no, it's like super hard compared to with leather. You just flip it over and do it, and it's done. At least in my time. Could you show how to do piping onto the tongues? First, what was your issue on the first attempt? Oh, it leaked through, dude. That'll happen with even with liner leather. On my first pair at school, I used white liner, and we used that like Super 77. Use this stuff to spray the tongues to get it to stick, and I think I oversprayed it or whatever. But those shoes definitely have a couple of spots where this Super 77 like soaked through the actual leather of the liner on that tongue, and you can still see it. So even with leather, let alone with cloth, it's kind of a pain in the ass to sometimes, but I find the way to do that is just kind of I let the brush dry out a little bit, and kind of like halfway between wet and dry the glue from the brush onto the fabric, and it sort of makes a surface on it, and then you like leave it there for a while and let it tack up and dry, and then once it is, you press it, right? So you gotta wait until it's not wet at all anymore, and all the solvents are gone. That's more or less what's going on with contact cement, right? You put it on there, it's got solvent in there to make it spreadable, but then as you leave it there, and that solvent evaporates, then all that's left is the cement itself, and that's what becomes tacky, and when you press it together, becomes like a sort of molecular bonds between both sides of the that are making contact. So when you're doing that with fabric, you want to do the same thing, just being very conscious of the idea that if you leave any of the solvent in there before you like press it or take a roller to it or whatever, it'll immediately come through and ruin your piece. So it's a lot more important than it is with leather. Okay, could I show how I do piping on the tongues? I can. I do a shitty job at it. If I'm real honest, I need to do better at it. So, full disclosure, the back of my, or can you see it? Hold on. The backs of mine are sewn so badly. You see this? Or you can't really see because it's reflective. Here. Still can't. How about this? So that's how bad the stitching is on the backs of these things, because I just can't aim. So part of like the right way to do this is with a flatbed and a binder, a binder foot. The wrong way to do this is by nailing it in the front and making sure it looks fantastic in the front, and realizing that it kind of looks fine-ish in the back and not worrying about it. But actually on a post bed, I think the trick is understanding that like when you're sewing it, Or how do I do this? There. So the trick is, like when you're sewing with this stuff, your tendency is to kind of do this, right? And what you need to avoid, or sorry, I'm back here. So your tendency is to kind of do this with it and sew this way, but what you got to do is make sure that you're like flattened out, so you're hitting it in a straight line. I still tend to not do that because I'm just not good at it, and that's just me admitting. But I'm getting better and better at it, I guess. You know what I mean? Gotta remember, I'm only, you know, I'm not the shoe surgeon, dude. I've only been doing this for a little while. But so yeah, the answer, how to do this, and we'll do one right now. We can do one right now. The answer how to do it is cut a strip that's about a 1/2 inch wide, and as long as you think you need for your tongue. Glue your foam to itself, or your foam and your liner together in your sandwich, and then come through and you'll glue the liner to the tongue body piece, and like press down around the outsides, and then you'll do another piece of glue or a bit of glue around and press the piping on. And then once you have that piping on, you'll go through and sew. But while you're sewing, it's all about like keeping that flatness and just trying to at least visualize where the needle's coming out of the backside. But that's really a pain in the ass. So, okay, let's see if I can show you. I mean, honestly, dude, it looks good, but it's not. I mean, it's if you compare this to the people that no, I shouldn't say it like that. If you compare this to what's considered the high end of the bespoke shoe or sneaker making world, it doesn't look as good as it could. But it's great, and no one would notice. And if Nike did that, it would just be bad quality control. Okay, so I'm going to take this stuff out of our way. I need tongue, 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 and then we can tuck this stuff for now. Alright, I need to go grab a piece of foam real quick. So I'll be right back with some foam that we'll use for our tongue. My wife graciously lets me store the foam in her walk-in closet for some reason. We definitely need to move to a house because I take up way too much room in this place with my sneakers, and when I suggested that maybe I should get a shop, she was like, no, because then I wouldn't see you ever, and you'd be in there all day, every day, and that seems like a reasonable conclusion. So that means I need to buy a house and have a shop in there. That seems like the most reasonable conclusion to me. Okay, where did I do with the pattern piece? Here we go. Foam piece. Okay, most foams. Hey, look at her. There's the wife right there. Hey, wife, in the chat. Okay, so foam. Let's see. Can you guys see this? Well, yeah. Well, yeah, you probably can. There's two sides of most of these kinds of foam. One of them has like a, I mean, I don't even know what you call it, like a mesh kind of layer that's fused to it, and the other is like the open cell of open foam. There's definitely a bunch of different ways to do that, or what we're doing here, but in my experience, using glue on this open side of the foam is not that great, and that's when you got to think of these open cells as little holes where all the glue can get stuck, and then the problem is once the glue gets in there and then you compress it and it gets stuck, then the foam doesn't want to rebound anymore, and it's going to be, useless, and it's not foam. So in my experience, I basically use this side to do the like heavy duty gluing, and the other side, I mean, sometimes I don't even glue it. Like these ones here, the liner side is not even glued down, so it's glued down to the body side, and the liner side is actually glued down to the periphery, and it's held in by stitches that happen in here and held in by the binding stitches. The other thing that we want to do probably is find the tongue pattern. I'm not gonna do a big old crazy intricate tongue like this one. This tongue takes forever. You wouldn't think so, but the order by which you have to do all the tags and the lines and stuff, I actually fucked it up. You can tell that I fucked it up because I had to kind of force these lines to work, and I think they look kind of cool the way I did it, but thanks for the help with that. Oh, that thing, yeah. Tosh, he's talking about that your help with the shipping. Everybody's very, very, very grateful for Natasha's help with packing their orders from the super top secret project that nobody knows about. Where's the friggin' tongue? Sorry, I'm a little disorganized right now, guys. It's been a long day. Oh well, we'll just YOLO it. How about that? Okay, cutting out a piece of this for the Sasquatch Club. Only for a few, you guys. 4th of July weekend plans. Nah, man, that's our right now plan. These guys needs to get shipped. Show you another trick that I do here. Could be completely wrong. I could be, in general, leading you guys down all sorts of bad paths. I just taught myself all this shit. I don't know anything. What do I know? But that being said, in my fun experience so far, when I cut these, I give it a little bit of a taper to kind of give it some shape. I actually do the same thing with collars because I've found, I use really high density foam because I like the way it feels on your feet. But the other problem with high density foam is that when you cut high density foam at like 90-degree angles, it stays at 90-degree angles. So if you pull a liner over that, you end up with a Lego block looking collar, and that's kind of no good. So you end up having to use. I like to use either. Well, scissors work fine, really, but you could use a hot wire if you wanted to get like real fancy with it or something like that. But the idea is shaping the foam a little bit under the liner that you're using, more than just cutting out a two-dimensional shape of the pattern. And I'll show you what I mean. On this 1/4-inch foam is not as big of a deal. On the 1/2-inch foam that I use for like dunks, you can really tell, especially when you're using like a fabric liner, like with the Corona dunks. The Corona dunks are actually very tapered, and the Corona dunks I do a little differently. So this is going to be more of a traditional piping that you're going to do with a bias tape or binding like this. The way I do the Corona dunks are actually more like the way you do a handbag, the way you do like a purse, where you're going to do piping that's inside it and then turned. I don't know if I have any. I mean, I guess I have the actual Corona dunks. Hold, I'll show you the difference. All right, so if we look at the like typical way that we go about tongues, right? Bias tape, binding around the sides, etc. I do these dunk ones more like what happens with a handbag, where if you see, this is actually piping that, and this is a turned seam. That's not what dunks are normally like. Dunks are normally like this, just real fat. So, but I for whatever reason, I mean, I really liked the way that this one turned out, and it makes the tongue like big and blocky and scary with the virus stuff in it. So I did it that way, but that's another way to do it, I guess. I've never seen it done that way, but I think it looks pretty cool. But this is going to be your traditional way. Funky dunks. Yeah, we could do that. So Natasha has a duck that's kind of funky looking that she sees on her walk every day, and has become her like little bro. Meaning, apparently we're gonna make some funky duck dunks. You can see that. He's like white and he's got like red turkey face. Is there a duck charity? Do ducks need charity? Do they need saving? So, I need to probably do another couple of streams to do that affiliate thing, just to like check those boxes. What do you guys think about maybe when I last these guys or something, I'll stream that and just have it be like an off time where whenever I'm doing it, I can just turn it on and tell the Discord and whatever, and not like schedule it. Is that like a thing? Is people be into that? This is what I was talking about tapering it a little bit. Basically coming through these edges, and I just cut off the corners more or less. And it's not like super important that it's like really precise because it's, you know, bendy. I'm kind of glad there's not like a bunch of new people here on the stream today because of all of the hubbub. Because I'm tired as shit and I feel like I'm doing a real bad stream today. So maybe next week we'll have a bunch of new friends and they'll come and we'll impress them with our lining skills. Who is that? Is that Chop? Is that who's been mad about missing this? I know it's Chop. Yeah, man, that's exactly. I mean, I think it makes a little difference. Just literally just cutting off the edges a little bit. Yeah, what up, Chop? Finally made it, bro. Any of y'all see Eric out there just wrecking on people in those comments today? Eric, are you on here right now? Dude, that dude was just wrecking on fools in there. He's just like no holds barred saying some shit I wanted to say, but I wasn't gonna, try not to stir up anything. I thought about it. That's what I should have done, is just turned on one of my other accounts and got in there and just wrecked on people with him. Yeah, it's exactly where you come for the offensive shoes. Offensive shoes for sale, $5,000. Fake ones for sale, $350. What's up, Ben? If anybody has any complaints about their Spotify service, we have Ben here, and he's the CEO of Spotify or some shit like that. Probably CEO. I don't remember. Works there one way or another. So complain at him. Okay, maybe he's not the CEO. He's definitely not the janitor, though. I've met the janitor. He's cool. Exactly. Do I think rep sites are going to make Corona dunks? So actually, kind of. I kind of do think that. Yes. I, I'm friends with a couple of the of the real big. I guess when I say that, anyone who knows the rep scene at all will know who I'm talking about when I say that I'm friends with the one of the cool guys in the rep scene in China, which is, there's only really one of them. He's pretty much like, yeah, somebody's gonna do it eventually. And then let's just say that another guy who might be the manufacturer for a shoe that has a firearm on it instead of a swoosh, if you know what I'm saying, has been hitting me up and talking to me about things and stuff like that. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to do that, have anything to do with it myself, and like be the guy who's making, you know, my fakes and trying to sell them or whatever. But I definitely think that I will have officially made it when I'm at the mall and I see a 14-year-old hype beast in Taobao versions of coronavirus dunks. Like, I'm pretty sure that's like the definition of making it for me. So I guess the answer is I hope so. I think it would be really cool to see some shitty reps of my shoes, and I will definitely buy them. I don't know what that is. I have no idea who you're talking about. What do you mean, bro? Definitely don't know who's making those shoes. I should hit him up and ask him if he'll just make me another batch of those. Flood him. Get some dollars. I bet he would. Alright. I got a little too intense with that cut in there. Okay. So like I said, I'm gonna glue the mesh side, not the open side, and I'm gonna glue it to the thick part, not the what's supposed to be thin part, but isn't thin because we got some bad skins. But it'll work fine for the tongue. Like that's what this is here, so we'll be okay. So get our little Japanese glue spready guy. Puts Hi, what are you doing? I am making a shoe, is what I'm doing. Well, actually, currently, I'm making a tongue for a shoe. This one would be a Jordan 1 Low. It's a size 5.5, which is my wife's size. It is a pattern by a guy called ME Customs over in Germany, who is the most particular dude I know, and is, if you're gonna want something with some precision that has to do with shoes, he is the German engineer to get it from. That being said, right now I'm feeling Portugal. Should the tongue and the liner be both 2 ounces? No, absolutely. No. I think the tongue generally is gonna want to be something more like what you're using for your upper. So you're gonna want that like closer to 2.5 or 3 ounce, and then the liner you're gonna want to be honestly like as thin as you can manage without it being really weak and useless. So I really like it to be about 0.7 millimeters, which is going to be just shy, like just barely shy of 1 ounce. But you kind of have, when you're going to go that thin, you got to use high end skins that are from a good source and are high grade. Because if it's like super thin and it's bad stuff, you'll just rip it, or the worst part is you'll be lasting. You'll be all the way towards the very end of your build. You'll be lasting, and that liner will rip because it's just bad material. Like not every material is made the same, man. Just because it's 2 ounce or 3 ounce or whatever, like you could have 2 ounce leather that's 2 millimeters thick because it's really like thin. It's not dense and so it's like big and thick and porous and spongy, and that stuff sucks. That stuff will break right in half. So it's 2 ounce, and then you get 2 ounce like Cordovan that is a hair thickness, but is also still 2 ounce, and you could probably make a braid out of it and tow your truck with it or something like that. So there's more to material than the weight. It's kind of like the weight and the thickness and the general composition, quality, and whatever. Most of the shoes that we see in the factory, from the factory, that we see like on the shelf at Foot Locker or whatever, are using polyurethane coated shitty leather that actually is really good to use and is easy to use and consistent. And there's a reason why they use it on an industrial scale. There's a reason why like even super designer handbags and stuff that cost a couple $1,000s are still shitty polyurethane coated leather that's been pressed and whatever. Mostly because consistency and durability, and like I've made bags for Tosh out of like real supple, gorgeous calfskin, and then you start realizing that if she takes it out and like touches anything with it, it'll get destroyed. But if you made it with, that polyurethane stuff, you could, use it as a weapon and it would be fine. Let's see. I have a 12 and a half, 13. I'm Italian. Nice to meet you. Hey, Joker. Nice to meet you too, bud. Yeah, good materials matter. Good materials are probably like one of the more paramount things. But that's the other thing. It's understanding where the good materials are important. Like people ask me like, hey, could you use this blankety blank for a swoosh? You can use anything you want for a swoosh because there's nothing structural about that thing. You're not going to pull on that swoosh. There's nothing to hurt that thing. So like we make the joke about, everyone always asks like, oh dude, are you going to get in trouble like with Nike if you're making shoes with swooshes on them, or you're making shoes with Nike on them or whatever? And first of all, no, because they like what we're doing, like for the most part, I think, and they're for the culture, and they see us as a marketing tool like any other one. But the or what was I getting at? Oh, when someone asked me like if I well, whatever. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh, good material. That was, man, it's been a long day. If I ever did get a cease and desist for doing what I'm doing and trying to respect their brand and pay homage to it the way I do and stuff like that, and care about it as deeply as I do, if I ever get a cease and desist and it's ever a problem, I'm going to take that paper and laminate that motherfucker on a piece of leather and make some swooshes out of it, because you can make swooshes out of anything. And that's how we get back into the train of thought. Started out with good materials matter, but good materials only matter where they matter. You can use anything for anything as long as you or know what you're doing with it. So if you decide you want to use some clear PVC for some panel, or some mesh for some panel, or your cease and desist letter for some panel, or whatever, you can. You just got to understand that there's there's structural parts of the shoe, and some of them need backing, or need structural elements to do it, and some don't. So like you see, for example, like a Sakai waffle, those parts with the mesh in it, you could replace whatever you want to. It wouldn't do anything because they don't. It's not that structural part. So anyway, that was what I was getting at in my long, tired little diatribe there. I did figure it out though. Okay. So with these, you kind of just need to get it pretty close to the center, giving yourself enough room on the outsides to press that little sandwich. Hopefully I have some some tags already made, because I don't want to make any right now. I'm gonna stay on for another probably 15 or 20 minutes or something like that, because I messed up the beginning so much this evening. So we'll probably have time to finish these out. I'm not gonna do anything fancy with them. I'll try to shut up a little bit. Oh. So you guys were asking about how to do the piping, and the answer to that is exactly what we're doing here, where we're just kind of making the ability to like sandwich the outside here, pinch them together, and give ourselves a surface to sew on. The thing about piping is we need to do the tags before we do the piping on one bit, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So I'll show you how we do that. What kind of glue is that? Every time! You're messing with me. You're messing with me, huh? What kind of glue is that? You gonna ask me what time this show is on? What channel? It's Elmer's school glue. Only the best. Yo, Messiah, if you're actually asking seriously, ask again. But I assume you're joking right now. It's Renia. Okay, so just go around the perimeter and press the edges. What day? Bro. What time zone? All right, so the basis of a tongue is more or less this. If you went to the like base of like, or when we did the shoe surgeon school, and you do the first one, like not a Travis Scott version or whatever, but you do just a Jordan 1 class, this is more or less what your tongue is going to be. If you're first starting out and you're not trying to get all crazy and you're just learning how to put shoes together, you can definitely just do this and run a seam around the edge of it, call it good, and it'll look pretty solid, man. But obviously, doing it with the piping is going to just be another step up. I got you. We'll just do it every show. At the beginning of the show, I'll put the glue on the bottle. I need to get sponsored by these guys because I do this every time. Renia Aquilum GL. You know why I have to do this every time? Because I can't pronounce it, and y'all make me do it because it sounds funny when I try to. Aquilum. I don't know. Yeah, leave it on its own camera. I could just put this camera here and just have its own little thing in the corner. I get this. Who did I get this? Oh, I get this from District, and I get it in this big monster bottles. I think these are like $40 or something like that, and they last a pretty decent amount of time. Okay. So when you're making this piping, what I usually do is you have two options. For most of you, you only have one option. For most of you, your option is using your liner because it's already thin. If you spent a bunch of money on an electric skiver, you can use your electric skiver to make yourself some bias tape. Trying to do that by hand would be extremely hard. I have done it before for the first bag I made for Natasha, and it was extremely hard and very tedious. And unless you're Darren over there, who's Mr. No Tool or No Machines and masochist and likes it, then I would suggest you not trying that. Okay, so that being said, let me see if I can find some more of this liner, and I'll cut a piece. Maybe we'll just do black. They have some of that. Hard part about cutting this stuff in a straight line is that it's so bendy that it doesn't really have a straight line because it'll kind of just bend in whatever direction it feels like. Doesn't need to be super perfect though. Let me just line it up on the edges here. Yeah, both bottles. Oh, I mean, I do have a bunch of different kinds of glue, but that little bottle here, everything that I'm using until I get to the sole or installing the sole is the Renia. Make them then. Super stick? No, I use Barge TF clear. make sure I made this long enough. So basically you're just gonna make it long enough to get around the perimeter, which we definitely have. And we're gonna end up gluing that down. But before we do so, we're gonna find ourselves a couple of tags in my pile of tags. I know I always have a few on deck, at least somewhere. And oh, that one's not gonna work. Maybe that one. That's a set. Cool. We get a set. Set. It's all right. We'll put the stream back on later on. Don't ask about glue. Oh man. All right. So usually I need the freaking tongue pattern piece here, but I mean I don't really need it because it's just kind of putting the lines in the right spots. I swear it should be in this pile here, but I mean look at my pile obviously, so it doesn't really help. Oh well. Oh well, we'll YOLO it. It'll work anyway. Okay, so what we're doing, if you look at a factory shoe, we've got, so the way that these tags work is you're going to sew it downwards like this, and then you're going to flip it upwards and over and roll it, and then you're going to just sew it across the back there, right? So the problem with that is you've got to do that. We got to do that before we put the piping on, at least the bottom part. So I need to like sew this more or less, put the piping, and then do the flip, and then sew the bottom. It's all a big pain in the butt. So, let's see. Since I can't find the pattern piece, and I don't feel like making a new one right now because I kind of want to go to sleep, we will spec these. Call that 0.63. Call this 0.63. We're going to find the center, which we more or less do by eye. And then, so as much as I like to, or I would like to use glue here, problem is once you do use glue, you're gonna pull this thing over and expose all of that glue. So really, you just need to be careful with your needle and hold it down well. If you like, these things help in certain situations if you can make them hit in the right place. So like if we're trying to cross that line and center it like that and get it where it's supposed to be, and then you can use these guys to at least jig it in place somewhat, you know. So switch to the artisan. Let's hope we have some black. Nope, we have some white, so I gotta switch this stuff out real quick. You hear explosions in the background. That's because I live in Santa Ana, California, where it is 4th of July from the end of May until the beginning of August. Funny enough, people I know that celebrate the 4th of July the hardest are my Mexican American friends from Santa Ana, and they are a fun barbecue / party / fireworks / hangout time for about 2 months every summer. Up. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing at least a little bit, but it's basically just lining it up where, well, I guess I should do it this way. Lining it up where your marks are. Kind of taking a little bit of mental inventory of where your needle's about to drop. Adjusting if necessary. And then jamming it. So what I do is give this guy a little bit of a lock stitch. Keep it there. Like I said, to avoid the glue situation. And then we start under where the piping would be, lined up with where that lock stitch is. Throw another lock stitch. And then just go in a straight line. And when we go in a straight line, we let the machine do it. Don't force the machine to do anything it doesn't want to do. Sorry, yeah, I need to get a microphone that's over in the over by the sewing machine, or I just need to talk louder. But hopefully you can at least see what we're. Yeah, the volume is low when I'm on the sewing machine because it's really far away. So I think I need to either get a lapel mic or do another mic over there or something like that. Overhead on the machine, I could do that. I think. I don't know if it would help. Like that's what I'm trying to do with this camera here. Um, Maybe I can move this camera like up and go and point down at it or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll toy with it. But I think I'm sure there's something I can do. Okay, so we sewed our tongue line, and in doing so, we sewed our tag on. That tag eventually is going to do this flip and get sewed on the back here. Well, we can't do that right now though because we need to put the piping on. Otherwise, we have to somehow put the piping on inside here, and that won't work. Yeah, I mean, the best I could have done was so far with the $20 webcams that I set it up with, but you know, now that we've got more people around and people are actually getting into this kind of thing, like it doesn't cost a lot to build a better setup. So I'll probably put a little bit more effort into it in the relative near future. It's on my list. Lots of things on my list. We have decent sound when I'm like here at this desk though, right? Is that good? Because like, I mean, we should at least. If we don't have, if we're not loud right now, that's a really easy problem to fix. I just need to turn the gain up. It's still low right now. Because if it's still low right now, I just turn the gain up and should be like, is it better now? Okay. Maybe that'll help when I'm on the machine anyway. It's an SM7, so hypothetically it shotguns, but I mean they're made more or less to be screaming into. Damn, I didn't know it was that bad. You guys should have told me. I would have turned it up forever ago. I mean, if I need to turn it up even more, I still can. It's got a lot. I got a lot left. What up, cat? What's the cat's name? Micro chop cheese. Cat's name is Bronx. That's close to micro chop cheese. Hey Ben, what do you know about them chop cheese? Are you that New York yet, bro? I think we're definitely outnumbered by New York heads in here, but we got mostly Bronx cats in the group. But yeah, yo Chop, where's the best chop cheese at for Ben to go get? If anybody knows, it's literally this dude who's named after chopped cheese. This guy Ben, his at name on Instagram is literally little chopped cheese. So like, if anybody knows where to get one, it's this dude, or maybe Tony. Tony out here. It used to be LA was like most of my following was LA on Instagram. But as of like the past 2 weeks or so, New York passed it up. And so now it's like New York's got a pretty sizable lead. You gonna strap them Tims up or what? You actually, I bet you actually got them on right now, bro. Dead ass, actually for real, with some Tims on right now. Post them shit in the what shoe are you wearing chat, because I believe you. In bed too. This fool. Who's more Bronx than this fool who's literally in bed with Tim's on? Actually. I'm fucking dead. Eric, there you are, dude. I was talking about you earlier, holding it down, yelling at people on the internet for me today. Oh, too much. Probably should not be wearing this hoodie playing with glue like this, but a little late. This, by the way, is my new favorite, most comfiest hoodie ever. And I want all of my sweats to be made by Cactus Plant Flea Market for the rest of my life. Because this hoodie weighs like 60 pounds and it feels like one of those weighted, like, autism blankets. And I kind of love it. Oh, yeah. You finished your move, Eric? Everything good? Another one of those keys, man. Being real careful about how much glue you have on your fingers. It starts being like a second nature to every time I do anything to just pull it off. Like you would think that using gloves would make sense, but it's so often that I need to go back and forth from like gluing something to like touching something that if I did that with gloves, I'd have to replace them every 30 seconds. So it's more like I just got to glue something and then got to make sure you rub all that shit off and then glue it and then make sure all that shit off. Because if you're trying to work with something like this, every piece of this shoe, if you touch any of it with glue, it'll fuck the whole thing up. Like this suede, there's no way to get glue out of that. This stuff, there's no way to get glue out of that. Like even the black soles don't like glue on them. Like those will show forever too. Like it's all of it is. It's so one of those things to be mega careful about. All right, so this stuff, as you can probably assume, what I typically, or I guess we'll do it this way. What I do is, like I said, since I don't have a binding foot is this guy. So I'm actually lying. I do have a binding foot, but this is a binding foot for like a little Singer HD machine, and I don't want to pull that thing out right now. But how a binding foot works is there's these little slots in the back of it where you fold in a piece of like folded over binding tape. So the same kind of concept as what we're using here. You would put it into the binding foot this way, and then the binding foot would feed using this little plastic channel here. It would feed it through so you can get to the presser foot, your normal presser foot, and sew with it. But like I said, this is going to be for the little Singer HD, and I kind of don't want to use that. And there's no such thing as that for a roller foot. Mostly I don't want to use that because I think I need to get better at just doing it by hand and being more careful. So the way that I go about it, speaking of glue, leaving a little bit of glue on your thing and just leaving it somewhere, bad practice and can easily get you into some trouble. Okay, so what I do is I give myself enough seam allowance to know that I'm going to be able to create a decent bead on this, and then I'll put down a line with the compass, right? So actually, and I'll do that on the good side because that's more important, that I line this side up well than the other side. Mostly because the other side, when you've got these things on your feet, are, you know, touching your sock more or less and is not super visible, but like the tongue from the front is obviously a big deal and sort of a centerpiece of the whole shoe. So we're gonna go around and create ourselves a little perimeter here, and then we're gonna use that perimeter to line up or to align our piping or binding. I guess technically it's called binding, but I'm not really a technically kind of guy, so I don't really care. So when I say line up, we can literally think about it in 2 dimensions first and just roll around this bitch on the line, pressing as we go until we get to any of the major corners. When you get to corners, you more or less are going to do this the same way that you do like lasting a toe, which is making yourself little pleats and kind of squishing them out. But it's on such a smaller scale that it doesn't seem as much or as drastic as it does on the toe. So you can see there that there's a couple of little pleats there, and you're gonna like kind of squish them out a little bit as you go around the bend. And at that point, you can basically just kind of pinch this stuff over. Because the corners are really what you're using as your guides. Well, the corners and this perimeter line that you made. Generally, a lot of small pleats is better than 1 or 2 big pleats, and you'll notice that it's worth like kind of working them until they're like a bunch of small ones instead of one large one. And then just being careful about staying on the same amount of perimeter the whole way around. When you get to the end, you can just chop it like that chopped cheese. And this is the time when we look at it and go, okay, do I like it? Because this is what it's going to look like. And actually, so I like it mostly, I think right here, I can pull a little further back. And I think it's worth sometimes just kind of doing that last sanity check on this and like, I'm like, does it look actually good, or does it just look kind of like it's sort of good? And I think right here we squared off this corner a little bit. So we just kind of want to see how we just made it a little rounder and feel slightly more, I don't know, like it's supposed to. Okay, cool. And then last but not least, we're going to do the same concept. We're going to run another perimeter line to stitch on. Take a look at the back. See, like, if you don't take a look at the back, like right here, that this wouldn't get hit by a needle unless we like pull it down and make sure it does. Which is kind of why this is the wrong way to do this. A binding foot would put this on correctly all the time. And eventually, when I have enough shop space, I'll have like a big industrial flatbed with a binding foot on it. But right now, getting the Singer out, at least for this little pair of test shoes that I don't really care that much about, is just not, I don't really want to. So get that stitch line, make sure we look good all the way around, and then we can go to the machine and we can stitch it up. Put my headlamp on because that's the coolest looking accessory that totally doesn't make you look like a nerd at all. But it actually works really well and is very important to what we do. Usually I tell you guys, don't do this way, where you're gonna, usually you want the presser foot to be on the material that you're using. You want the presser foot to be sandwiching the all of the layers that you're sewing through. In this case, if you're trying to do that on the piping side, your presser foot's gonna barely be on a little tiny piece of it. So I glue it down, press it real hard, and then use the line of the edging itself, of the binding itself, as my guide to do the sewing. But you have to be careful that your needle is not bringing the piping back up with it on the first couple of stabs. Don't be afraid to use your hand wheel if you need to, or your knee, or both. Where freaking clippers go? Okay, so we got piping now, right? Piping, looking like piping. Backside isn't too bad, but you see, can you see right there? You see, I told you if you're not real careful about how they overlap, you're gonna have little parts of things missing. Like that there is a problem. Like I would feel bad about if I had a customer or something like that and it looked like that, and I would be probably a lot more careful about this thing than I am being right now. But you can see, I mean, this will hold and it'll be totally fine, and structurally it'll be really good, and even on the shoe it'll look great because it'll end up being here, and this side looks fantastic. But if you're the attention to detail guy, just, I mean, be super careful. Like it's just about watching the where the needle's going in, going out, and being conscious of what you're actually doing with it, you know. So the last step is going to be flipping the tag, and you kind of want to give it a little bit of enough slack to where it has that little bubbly Jordan 1 tag effect, right? And then the same concept is what we did when we sewed it the first time, or sewed the top. We're just going to sew another line. This time we're going to start by basically getting as close into the binding as we can, and then sew directly across, and then again get as close into the binding as we can, right? Probably you should draw a line if you care about being like precise. I think it'll be okay, but maybe it's worth doing. So again, you don't have to do this, but I like to put a little lock stitch so I know the tongue's not going, or the tag's not going anywhere. And then now we're going to get like right close to the binding tape or the vice tape or whatever you want to call it. So it looks as if that stitch is coming from under it, even though it's not. We're going to line that up with the lock stitch we just made. Gonna get like real close to the binding but not actually on it. Drop the last lock stitch and we should be good to go. Probably make this slightly cleaner by using your pattern pieces and taking measurements and stuff like that, but you know, I think it came out pretty good. Okay, so that's how to make a tongue. If you want to add a one of those little tongue loops, you do it on the bottom. You do it the same way you did with the tag. Sometimes where you'd basically run a stitch here, flip it over, and then when you did this bottom stitch for the tag, you would use that bottom stitch to actually get the tongue loop as well. On a lot of Jordan 1s, on like Jordan 1 highs, and even on lows, I guess, now that I think about it, they in the factory they just have slits cut in the sides as opposed to little flaps like an SB or something like that. But you know, that's how you make a tongue, and seems like it turned out pretty alright. Can't spread my TV. Okay, guys, it's been a while now, and I think after all of our problems getting on and stuff like that, we had a 2-hour stream, so I'm gonna go to bed and try to convince myself not to look at Instagram before I do, but I probably will. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out, and thanks everybody for helping with our velocity and the boost and making all this shit happen. And I'm still reeling from today, and you guys are a big part of it, so thank you. And since I know that the only people that are left on here are like the homies that are the Discord homies, I do have dates for coronavirus. Don't tell anybody yet, but I'm dropping the dates on the 3rd. The raffle starts on the 8th, and the auction starts on the 15th. Everything ends on the 22nd. So you'll have 2 weeks of raffle and a week of auction, and hopefully we'll make a big impact and stuff. And in the meantime, everybody go get in on Mammoth's raffle, because those Wakanda 4s or Dame 4s are sick, and I kind of want them myself. All right, guys, I'm out. I will see you all, where I always see you all. Talk to you soon.